Hello and welcome back to the floor of IAE 2950. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your professor here at Galactic Historian here at the museum. I hope you've been enjoying these museum pieces all of this week on all of the ship manufacturers. I've done a little bit of research on some of this, but again, these are not extensive overviews, but simply quick looks at most of these things. Today we're going to be talking about Origin. So to begin with Origin, let's talk about what's called the Glowing Age, which is a time period between 2750 and 2800, where a new antimatter rush, where antimatter became very popular to use again, very accessible, caused a boom of new products to be built, including Origin engines. Origin was originally a company founded in Cologne, Germany, specifically to build engine parts for ships. And by the end of the 29th century, it became very clear that there was a big need for transportation. The end of the Meser era in the end of the 28th century left a huge gap open for personal transports. Heavy transports at the very beginning of the 29th century, and towards the end of the 29th century, a lot of personal transports were needed. So while Origin got its start making engines for luxury yachts, RSI and Aegis luxury yachts, as well as military craft, large military craft, in 2899, they released the 200 series, and then shortly after that, the 300 series. These series were personal transports designed with luxury in mind, taking a lot of the cues from the brands that they had worked with for a very long time, specifically with the yachts. Now, over time, they became well associated with luxury brand. So naturally, they headquartered themselves on Earth and maintained headquarters on Earth, being very meticulous to make sure that all of their parts came exclusively from Earth, from the Sol system. But that changed. In 2913, the current CEO of Origin moved the company to New Austin, Terra. Everything but one specific engine testing facility on Luna. The reason why was because the CEO felt that Terra was the future for human culture, and that Earth was the past. And to keep up with the current trends and to remain luxurious as a manufacturer, they had to move to where the future was. This actually caused a backlash. The government actually has high taxes on Origin and Origin ships, specifically as a retribution for leaving Earth after being such an Earth-based company for so long. So why don't we look at the very first ship lines from Origin? The hull is kind of weird here, so we're going to go look through the ship versions of the 300i, but we're not going to look at the 300i specifically because it's the way everything's placed is a little off. So come join us. Let's go to the 300i. All right, we're here at the 300 hull for Origin. Now, the 200 series was the first ship made by Origin, but the 300 series was probably the most popular one. It is still very much the face of Origin next to its luxury yachts. More 300Is are owned by individuals than any of their luxury yachts, and represent the standard of luxury. The 325A over here, what we're looking at, that is the combat variant of the 300 with extra armor, extra sensors for targeting, plus lots and lots of guns with the ability to hold I believe a size 4 or size 5 gun mounted at the front, which is fixed. The 315P has a bespoke tractor beam at the front with extra cargo space and sensors, better sensors for longer range travel. And the silent, what's known as the, let me look it up real quickly, it's called the 4th variant, the 350R, called the Light Speeder. Now, there are rumors that there are 350Rs that are exclusively built and maintained by Special Forces units in the UEE to patrol the borders of Xi'an and Vanduul space, with stealth composites to be able to get in quickly, scout an area out, and get out before anyone notices them. So there are military applications for some of these ships. Now, the 300 being so versatile but being affordable meant that it had a lot of accessibility. Unlike Drake, who cultivated that outlaw personality, the common man persona, Origin was very against it. In fact, they spend billions of dollars every year specifically to anti-piracy efforts and do everything they can to prevent and publicly shame any outlaws or ne'er-do-wells or even slightly out-of-place celebrities or individuals from purchasing their ships. As a result, they're known as the ships for good people. The most roughest and tumblest of that the 300s are associated with is, of course, the 325A being a bounty hunter ship. But generally speaking, it's never really seen as an illegal ship, though there is a lot of market for 300Is aftermarket sold by third-party retailers. So you ended up seeing a lot of these in piracy as well as smuggling. As I've always said, the 315P is actually one of the best smugglers in the game right now. So that is the 300. This is the first ship, one of the first ships built in 2899 by the Origin company. Now let's go talk about the second major ship, the 600I. Alrighty, here we are at the second hall here for Origin. There's the 300 base over there. And here is the 600I. Now the 600I is unique because the 600i was once touted as being exclusively built on Earth with Earth products and Earth materials. Everything was sourced from Sol. Now, not so much, but this was the second major ship that Origin built, specifically inspired by those RSI and Aegis luxury craft. This was more, again, an accessible yacht, whereas the other ones were bespoke for the highest of the highest caliber. The 600i is designed for more of your rich but mid-tier kind of person in terms of wealth. So, but yeah, the fact that it was once considered to be the Earth standard yachts, where everything came from Earth, is an interesting notification. All right, then we're going to look at the actual original name for this real quick. In my notes, it was called the Model X VB. Today it's known as the 85X. XVB was built as part of Origin's racing team. Now, the 350R was the standard racer starting in the early 30th century. But Origin wanted to outdo themselves. The 350R won multiple Murray Cups, and they wanted to up the ante. So many ships were experimented with to replace the 350R as the premier racer. That would eventually become the M50. But the Model XVB, which is the 85X, was never really left. It was this kind of the second place winner. So when the 890s were first being developed in the new facilities in New Austin, Terra, the 85X became the ship upon which the 85X would be, or I'm sorry, the 890 would be brought around with. So the 85X became the snub craft for the 890 with specific software programmed into the 85X so that owners of an 890 could figure out where these things were. So I'm a little hot here. It's getting hot. That fire, I gotta turn that off. Alrighty. Let's go look at the other ships, the M50, the actual top racer, and interceptor in the verse. So, like I said, the hulls are kind of messed up for Origins, a little harder to navigate it through the classification, but this is the 890 Jump. This was built first being built in the 2915 and onwards in Terra. This is the Origin's answer to all of those very wealthy yachts they used to build the engines for. This is the more mass-produced, less bespoke version of them. It's very popular with large organizations as well as the government for transporting VIPs. The 890 is still built mostly in Terra, in New Austin, Terra. Let's go talk about the M50. All right, so the M50 project. The M50 project was specifically designed, as I mentioned earlier, to replace the 350R, to become the new 350R. It surpassed it dramatically. First released in 2920. Yes, 2920. First released in 2920, this ship blew the 350R out of the water in terms of speed and maneuverability. It is still one of the top racers, it's not the top racer in the verse today, being challenged only by the Car 2 All in terms of maneuverability. In terms of its secondary role, a large chunk of these M50s for 1 year was actually purchased by the Advocacy to replace the aging Avenger as a means of hunting down and disabling ships. So the M50 interceptors there are several M50 interceptors which are controlled by the Advocacy specifically for patrol and interception roles. Now let's talk about the most recent ship line in the series, the 100i. The 100i here, that makes it unique is the 100i is a kind of a throwback to the old ways that Origin would be building ships. This is more similar to, say, the 200i than it is the 300i. It also includes what's called the air system, or the adaptive intake refinery. This adaptive intake refinery is designed to keep you going longer and basically refuel your hydrogen tanks while you fly, meaning you're more efficient, longer traveling, and just better on your wallet for it. There are two other versions of the 100i. One is the 125A, which replaces the back end area with a bespoke missile bay. And there is also... You can't even access it, yeah. And then there is the 135C, which is the cargo variant, which this back area here actually is a separate cargo bay for 4 SCU, plus the internal cargo 2 SCU, making these ships very, very valuable for early space flight entrepreneurs. If you're just getting started in the verse, and you have a lot of money, this might be a good option for you. Now let's talk about the latest addition to the Origin family, other than the 890, the G12. Now, the G12 was built specifically around the time of the revival of Tumbril land systems. My guess is that because of the success of Tumbril, Origin decided that they needed to try their hand at a luxury version of those craft. Thus came the G12. So the G12 has three variants: the regular, the racing, and the military version. So the G12 base just has guns, but it also has a enclosed canopy, so you don't have to wear a suit while driving the buggy, giving you longer range as well as some cargo capacity. So it's a nice little addition to that. Now let's look at the military variant. The military variant is the G12A. The G12A has a unique missile launch system on the back, which is designed to both be artillery and anti-aircraft capability, as well as an EMP on board to help knock down craft. Otherwise, it's the same kind of luxury cabin. This was designed for things like VIP transport and protection, not necessarily with the military, not necessarily frontline combat usage, though it seems to also be getting some frontline combat usage as well because of its enclosed canopy, making it easier to survive attacks, especially on Bandul. And that's Origin, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Origin Day. It's kind of a little short today in comparison, but Origin, being a company that came from Earth, from Germany, and then moving itself to New Austin, Terra, burning lots of bridges along the way while innovating in both the field of personal transportation, luxury transportation, and racing, is a very interesting manufacturer in my point of view. What do you guys think? What is your favorite Origin ship? Do you like Origin? Do you hate them? What do you think? And of course, remember, like this video if you enjoy this. Hit that subscribe button if you like content like this, if you want to learn more about the lore of Star Citizen. And remember, like I say every time, ex Historia ad Astra.